Right, the clocks have changed. Winter is very much just around the corner, although it doesn't feel like it at the moment. Very nice and warm and balmy, and we have some races booked. So today we're going to be talking about what's next, and we're going to be talking all the way through until summer next year, because I've got my spring plans in place pretty much. A few races booked, a few awaiting entries to open, and other than that, after that we'll be rolling into, I'll give you a bit of a clue, you probably guessed it because I've mentioned it a few times already, a summer of speed once again. And after this summer where I unexpectedly kind of dove into 5Ks a little bit as tune-ups for 10Ks and did much better than I thought I would in those and not so good in the 10Ks, I thought to myself, we're that close to going sub 16. That is absolutely a goal that is going to be there for next summer. We've got autumn and winter to, well, autumn to finish off and winter to tackle first, and some exciting spring races. I'll give you all of that very shortly. Let's just get straight into what we have left for the rest of the year. I've got a couple of classics coming up that I tend to do wherever I can. The Newent 9 is in less than 3 weeks time now, so that's going to be the first one. I liken that race to a good old road cross country, very hilly, good fun, and yeah, you work to effort on that one and very much go for course PBs rather than any particular fast time. In December I've got the Hereford 10K once again, like I did last year. I said last year that is a race that should be on everyone's calendar, kind of a post-Christmas rust buster. And again, that's not flat either, it's definitely, it's far from flat, but it is lovely open country lanes where you can run fast, get a good bit of momentum going, and again burn away all of that Christmas junk that we all tend to kind of eat. I found that one really beneficial, and although training last year had been going really well throughout the Christmas period, and I always have a few days off over Christmas anyway, I really do think that that allowed me to have a good springboard into January and put in the performance I did at the Lisry 8 in January this year, which quite honestly could be the performance of the year from my perspective anyway. And I am actually scoping out options to squeeze in one more race this side of Christmas. It'd be nice to do 3. We've got 2 booked, but I would like to get one more in, whether that's a cross country, whether that's another road race. I'm not really fussed on it being anything sort of time related. It can be flat, it can be hilly, I'm not worried. I think the goal for the rest of the year now is to have some fun, go out and enjoy these races. The Newent 9 and the Hereford 10K, because they remove all time pressures, I do have fun with them, and that's how I really want to finish the year. So definitely looking to squeeze one more in. See you later this week, my friend, for a first baby workout back. And then of course we roll into spring, so lots to talk about there. A roadmap laid out, some races booked, some I'm weighing up my options for. Let's get back to the office, let's finish this run up, first run back, and let's talk all about spring. Right, let's go through this. That coffee was like dishwater, it was disgusting. So anyway, spring plan. So that's the start of, or the end of this year, I should say. And I've got to say, just before we go through this and the races and what's to come, the goal now is to absolutely have fun. The summer training block was probably the best training block in my mind that I've had ever, if I'm honest. I just smiled from ear to ear throughout the summer. I loved it, and I'm excited to get back to that now. I think with a marathon, what you have to do is you've got to be in the mindset, you've got to be ready to be prepared for the workouts, the big workouts, the long runs, feeling like a lot of the time because you're so fatigued. And I wasn't mentally in that headspace leading into this marathon. I seemed to pull a rabbit out of the hat towards the end and locked in for the second half. The first half was hard. It's the last time I'll say it. I didn't enjoy that marathon block in the slightest. I I went through the motions in the second half, ticked everything off, got really fit, very happy. Performance was what it was. I'll take it, and we move on from it. And that comes to the first point, which is, will you be doing another marathon this year? Absolutely not. A few of you said, do you fancy like keeping your fitness up and then jumping into another marathon? I thought about it for a split second. The answer before Abingdon was absolutely not. When I crossed the line, for a hesitant kind of like 5 minutes, I was like, oh, well, maybe I should. And I actually enjoyed the race itself. I've got to say, the more marathons I do, the more training I do, the quicker I bounce back from a marathon. Even though I've had 7 days off, that was by choice. The better I feel after every marathon, and the better each marathon feels. Now, London this year wasn't great because I threw up and I really hit the wall towards the end of it. But for the most part of it, I felt really good. And I'm finding that the more I do, then actually the more enjoyable they become. So although the training block wasn't as fun as I'd like it to be, the race itself was great. And it's actually kind of got me excited again to race another one next year. And I'm going to sit down and think very carefully about an autumn marathon next year. The only urgent decision I have right now is within the next week or so is to throw my name into the hat for Berlin, because my time should get me in under the fast runners. I think it's sub 2:45, I believe. So I could use my time there. Otherwise, I'm not going to rush, and I'm going to take my time and think about it. What's next is fun, a strength block, and then spring. Let's go through those races. So the instant roadmap here. So I've got a desk full of notes that I send to my clients. So when I'm coaching people, I will send them a video every time I send them a plan. Every 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on how much training they get at a time, where they are in their cycle, I'll record a video, go through it with them, send it over to them. I'll scribble down stuff like this. This is just a standard zone triangle. This is where I was trying to explain about squeezing, starting a bit slower on the on and off, over under workouts, and squeezing the paces down. I'm a bit of a visual kind of learner, so for those of you that are visual out there, you might appreciate this. This is written on some scrap paper from a shoe review video a while ago. 4th of November, which is next week, through to the 23rd of December, that week itself. That is an 8-week period where I'm going to be focusing on strength work. I'm going to be keeping relatively high mileage, or at least over 60 miles, hopefully closer to 70. That's the goal, for a long period of time. Normally what I do in the winter is this similar style strength work, but the mileage isn't quite as high. So again, I know if I need to step up as an athlete, I've got to step up my mileage. So that's going to be the goal there. But that week there, Christmas week, that's going to be a down week. I usually have 3 days off over Christmas, Boxing Day, Christmas Day, Eve Day and Boxing Day. Family's important to me, if you hadn't realised, and I like to switch off and dedicate family time to family time. I'm not a religious person by any stretch of the imagination, but I do firmly believe in quality family time. So that's going to be that week for me. I'll do a couple of runs in and around, and Hereford 10k falls at the end of this week, so that'll be interesting. And then from the 30th of December, that's when I kick back into gear, and I'll be going into the specific phase where I'm locking in somewhere in and around February and March. I haven't decided an end date yet. Again, it will be between 8 to 10 weeks, and that will be wrapping itself up on some kind of goal race, which is going to be a half marathon. And you'll have to bear with me because we're moving a bit of furniture around in here, so I'm kind of positioned a little bit frantically, which means I can hold this piece of paper here for the races that we have coming up next year. So the goal for spring, when I say specific period, is to train for a half marathon. I am not going for a spring marathon. For me, I was gutted to see London was at the end of April, and Manchester as well. The reality is, for someone who doesn't do particularly well in hot weather, to position a race at the end of April in the very last week, I mean, you're already kind of touch and go in April anyway, because it can be a bit hit and miss. But the chances are, with it being right at the end, it's just absolutely crazy. And I appreciate they've got to put it the weekend after Easter. I think that's some kind of tradition. But for me, that would be an absolute no-no anyway. And I didn't want to do it again. I want to have a year off before maybe tackling it the year after. But that ruled it out anyway, and Manchester was sold out. The only other option was Newport, which is positioned perfectly on the 13th of April. And I really did consider it. But mentally, I know that the year, which was last year, where I skipped an autumn marathon. So I did a Newport in in spring, and then I did Oxford Half as the goal in the autumn. That was the year that I kind of progressed, I feel, as a runner the most, where I actually took a season or a period off marathon running and then went back again for the spring. And although London this year didn't pay off, I felt like in general, like that Lisbury 8 performance, as I said at the beginning of this year, was a combination of getting a really good marathon training block done, hitting the speed in the summer, gently building back up to half marathons, and then working from there into full marathon. So although we're doing things the other way around, we're going in reverse. We've hit a marathon, we're going to be going down to half marathons and then hitting a summer of speed. Which leads me on to talking about this. Straight away, we're back in for the Lisbury 8 in January. So that's going to be the first race that we tackle. And when it comes to it, I think we'll be at the end of week 3 of the specific phase. So again, just like this year into next year, I want a good mix of old races that I love to do, and also mixing it up by venturing new places. I think I've done quite well this year, not doing all of my original races that I love to drop into the calendar, and that'll be the same mentality for next year as well, which then leads me on to these next 2 races. So potentially either in January, the weekend after, because this is the 3rd weekend in January, 17th, 18th, 19th, the Boddington 10, organised by CLC Striders. So that is another flat and fast 10-mile race out on the Boddington loop that you guys saw me do that big long run during marathon training. Or the week after, which if I'm honest with you, I'm more tempted by, the Warwick Half Marathon. Now, I'm going for half marathons next year. And the beauty of half marathons is that you can drop more than one of them in a training block because you kind of recover a little bit quicker. Although it might take it out of me a little bit and I don't want to do like very close half marathons together, I know that I can drop one in February and also one in March. This one here was part of the Top Flight race series this year. So again, I don't know if you guys remember, but I went to Battersea Park this year for the 5k race and I managed to sneak in an elite entry because my 10k time qualified me. So I jumped into that race. This was on the calendar. I've had a look at the elevation profile. It looks absolutely brilliant. Very, very flat. Early February, weather could be hit or miss, but if it's perfect, it could be perfect conditions to go and really target a good fast half marathon. So the reality is I might do Lisbury, week off, and then Warwick. If I don't do Warwick, it will probably be Boddington. After that in February, I'm going to be absolutely doing the Bourton 10k. You best believe I want to get back there this year because I missed it this year due to illness. The entries for that are not open yet. So when they open, that's what I'll enter, and there may or may not be something in between there. I'm trying to get something sorted. Moving into March, this is where the question marks are. I've got a selection of races penciled in, potentially Fission 20, which is the 20 miler, but they also do a half marathon. The reality of that one would be very much a time trial unless I could get a group of people together going for a fast time. Although having said that, it is super flat and fast, a brilliant course, and that doesn't bother me too much. If I get a good effort out in Warwick in the month before, I'd be quite happy to go and do a solo effort out there on those lanes. But that clashes with the local Forest of Dean Half Marathon, which I haven't done in years. And the reason I'm considering it next year is because there's a chance that if I finish top 4 in that race in my age category, I could earn myself an England vest. It's being used for the England Trail Masters Championships. So I'd fall into the 35 to 40 category because I'm 37 right now. So I probably really want to do that, and it's on the same day. So there's a chance I won't do Fission. So then I'm looking for something early April. Options are things like Newport Half Marathon, Bath Half, but I don't really fancy Bath because I've heard it's a bit hit and miss. Some people say it's relatively flat, some say nah, the hill at the end absolutely breaks you, and in 2 laps to go, within 2 laps there are a few little cheeky hills there, so I'm not really too keen on Bath. There are other options that I'm assessing, so I'll probably try and get a half marathon done towards the beginning, and if I do really well at Warwick, then I might end up doing Newport, because although Newport is not necessarily the flattest, it still drags in a relatively good field. So then once all of this is done and March is complete, obviously we're going to roll into a summer of speed. And the goal this year is to be ready to rock and roll for those 5Ks kick-starting in April. So for me, when I do get into the summer of speed, it usually kicks in May because I've run a marathon and then I feel relatively sluggish in the beginning of May. So any races in the beginning of May tend to be a bit of a write-off. So then realistically, the faster times start coming in June. I don't want to be in that position this year. Marathon training throughout the spring and racing in April often rules out so many races that I want to dive into, that I want to utilise that opportunity next year. I mean, we're talking there's a Hereford Couriers 5k, there's the Race to Victory Cardiff 5k, there'll be the Bristol Track Club 5k, which usually tends to be the week before I do a marathon. So I'd love to jump into those races, and that's what I want to be ready for. Ideally, if I wrapped it up at the Forest of Dean Half Marathon, which is towards the end of March, I can then literally get off there, go from, where's my block drawing? Here we go. Go from strength to specificity, and then literally from there lock into speed work straight after. So by the time I get to that first 5k, I might be 2 or 3 weeks in to some speed work, hopefully feeling nice, fit, fresh and sharp. So there we go, that's that complete. And as I said, I just want to be ready for speed after that. All I want to focus on now is smiling from ear to ear and just getting back out there on the trails. It can be a bit wet, sloshy, muddy, but I don't care. Winter is a great time to train, a great time to build fitness. And if you're considering a spring marathon or half marathon or a goal race, really start to think about locking in now, getting some good foundations in, ready to get specific when the new year comes around. As I said, all I want to do now is come down off the marathon, keep good volume with this strength work, get into the specific phase, get into some speed in the summer, and then be mentally ready and switched on to attack an autumn marathon next year, whichever one it may be. I just want to go into that next marathon block feeling sharp, fit and ready. And although there's a little hankering with me now that I know I'm going to get FOMO for everyone running spring marathons, I know it's for the best for me, and I know last year I improved dramatically when I cut a marathon block out, so I'm prepared to do that again this year to really lock in and be fitter and fresher. Plus what it does is it allows me to test out new fueling, new brands, and test out some fueling strategies, especially over the winter months where the volume of training is still relatively high, not like marathon high, but some long runs in and around 90 minutes, that sort of thing, where I can try and cram in a few gels, even though I don't need to, just to see how they settle in my stomach. So lots to work on this winter. And when I've got the fueling stuff sorted, that's when I'm going to be hitting a marathon, when I feel confident and ready to do so. So I appreciate your support, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. If you enjoyed this one, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. See you on the next one.